Really good. All but the black socks, they looked a little awkward, but no, it was good to see. And credit the training staff. You know, when you leave for the summer, no news is good news, and the players that weren't able to practice were the players that we expected that weren't going to be able to practice. So there were no surprises.
You said, I think maybe it was late last year, that you didn't think you hadn't hit the point with Jared where you sort of knew everything. Does it take playing? Can you sort of find that in camp? Like, how do you sort of continue?
I think it's an ongoing evaluation of decisions, you know, how quickly the ball's coming out. Certainly he understands what we're doing. And then, you know, I went over this last night. You know, do you know what to do? Are you trying to do what's being coached? How well are you doing it? There's a series of things that I think is important for them to understand how they're being evaluated. And I think that applies with him as well.
When you get the players back after a few weeks off, is there sort of a need to kind of help them shake the rust off, or are they pretty much into it?
I think that's kind of how we've moved a little bit to this ramp-up schedule, and credit the league. And, you know, we're all a lot further along than we were 20 years ago in every aspect of this game. You know, how to recover, how to train. And I think that it served us well last year. I do think you have to build callus, and there's a time for that. But today's practice was one of the shorter ones, and then each day there'll be a gradual buildup.
Coach, when do the pads come on? And until then, how much evaluation can you get?
Well, we can get a lot of evaluation. What's today? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think Saturday or Sunday, I think. There's like 3 or 4 ramp-up days, and then we're in full pads.
We asked you so much about the quarterbacks, but with the running backs, you have a nice group there. Do you see them all as 3-down guys, and how do you split those reps between those guys?
Good question relative to a 3-down back, because that encompasses a lot. I've been spoiled. You know, obviously, when we signed P. Ryan, he's someone that played in that role before. So we had protection evidence. We also had pretty good ball skill evidence, and you guys saw it last year even for us at times, you know, catching underneath 3rd and 8. And now they're going to have to bring the chains out to see if he got it. But I do think we train them with the anticipation that they can play on 3rd down. And I think we have a group that we feel strongly about that can. And each maybe does some different things. You know, what Jaleel does might be different than some of those others. But that flexibility is good.
Sean, in your experience, what is the most challenging part for a rookie wide receiver making the leap from college to the pro level?
I think depending on the offense he played in, oftentimes they play right and left. You know, they just stay to their side, outside left or outside right. And in our league, most of the time, they may be more outside, but they're right and left terminology. I think the diversity in the routes that they're running, the library is much bigger. And so it is a position that I've seen making immediate impacts, and it's a position that I've seen first rounder. We had, you know, Robert Meacham. It took him a year or two, and then when he got it, though, we were glad we had him. So I think it's one of those positions. A lot of it depends on their college reps and vocabulary and their offense in college, and I think that can impact it quite a bit.
With Troy Franklin specifically, then, like, what did he bring in terms of, like?
You see outside, you see speed, you see playmaking down the field. There's certain routes that you see that are strong suits. I do feel good football IQ with that player, and that's encouraging. You know, he's continuing to get stronger. It's a big group, if you haven't noticed, if you really look across the board, and that's kind of preferred. I mean, the ones that aren't really big have a unique skill set. You know, they stop fast, they accelerate. Dorsett, Bandy, there's a few of those players, even Mims. But when you start looking at the group in general, Man, I like the size.
When you look defensively, where did that group make the biggest strides last year? What gives you confidence that they start fast?
Well, look, I think there was a tale of kind of 2 seasons. I loved how we began taking the ball away. I think it helped our team win, quite honestly. That one statistic can really mask, if you will, some deficiencies. I don't ever think we've felt like we stopped the run well enough as we had hoped. I think it's going to be important this year we do. Just as I think it's going to be important that we improve on our running game. And I think that's something we pointed out.
From a coaching standpoint, early ramp up your reacclimation, how do you find the balance in stressing urgency while also being in control of the system?
Yeah. That's the hardest part. Because guys want to go fast, guys want to make a good impression. And we struggle with that in that OTA period as well. And until the pads come on, you have to work with each other. I think it's the hardest for the offense and defensive linemen that both are trying to win a certain gap. It's not, I mean, it's a little bit, I think, easier outside. So the further away from the ball, it's a little less challenging. But at some point, someone acquiesces inside so that you can have a drill and stay off the ground.
Sean, how much time do you have to, I guess, add or modify it because of the new kickoff rules to add the practice in? And is that better in a time like this where you're not the O-line?
I think that's going to be the case for a lot of teams. I mean, we just can't take our practice schedule out and say, here it is. That kickoff and that kick return element is going to require more time. And it might be at the expense of an offensive drill or a defensive drill, but we're going to have to, come out of the gates quick with that. That's going to be interesting, to say the least, for all the teams, and certainly is going to be important for our team.
Also, non-padded days, though, is that easier to maybe sneak some in?
I think, yeah, and I think the same in pads. Just the overall, if you said last year we spent X amount of hours on a season practicing kickoff coverage and kickoff return, and granted, a year ago, you'd spend not as much time in those areas just because you had few reps. You had a lot of touchbacks. I think that script is going to flip a little. You're certainly going to be spending, I'd say, 25% more time in those two elements, kick and kick coverage.
Sean, how open are you with the quarterback specifically? Do you spend any more time with them explaining how practice is going to go, or do they just...
Yeah, no, we're on the same page. They don't find out when they walk out here. In meetings, and we set the week in advance, we talk to them. There's great dialogue, and I think it's important. And not just with that position, there's a flow and an organization to how guys are going to get reps in camp early on, and then that begins to change as we get closer to the preseason. So they're very much on the same page.
Do you think younger players stress about that overall?
I think younger players in general stress, right? I mean, I think it's new. And I can remember being new and just, I think that, I think it's good to get that first spring under their belts where they kind of, they know the ropes a little bit. And, but I think that the best way I know to reduce that is to know what to do. Then, there's nothing worse than, walking in a classroom for a Friday test and you're not ready. Like, that's how I think, that's my recall of stress, right? But if you are ready, I think you can reduce that. And then we try to talk to them about paying attention to yourself. You're not just competing with the depth chart here. You're competing with the 31 other tight ends or right guards or defensive ends around the league. We had a kicking competition one of my latter years in New Orleans, all preseason, the discussion was A or B, A or B, A or B, and at the end of the season, we brought in Will Lutz for a workout, and it was neither A or B. It ended up being C. And so I think you're competing here initially, internally, to be your best.
We've noticed you were fielding a question about Tim Patrick, and you said, "I know what the healthy tape looks like." What kind kind of fraction does the past, like real world NFL experience, get mixed in and baked into this evaluation?
It's important when you know what you're getting a little. There's an old saying, I remember, I don't need to see it every day, but I still need to see it, though. And that's going to be important for him. It doesn't have to be every practice, but I still need to see it.
And with someone like Javonte, who once upon a time, just a couple years ago, was leading the league in broken tackles.
Yeah, it looks good. I don't know if you've noticed, if you guys get a chance to get up and close, but he's lost weight. He looks trim. I thought he looked sharp today. He looked much different. His weight's down, and proud of him.
We've noticed Johnny Moe stays on Troy Franklin pretty good.
He stays on most of them. He stays on most of them. He coaches them hard. He coaches them, with love, because he sees, what they have. It's Troy today, but he's an equal opportunity.
Scolder.
Yeah, but he's teaching all the time. He's teaching all the time, and I've been with him a long time, and I like hearing it. I like hearing it from a coach with passion, because I think the players do as well. It's when it gets quiet and no one's talking to you is when you got to begin to worry.
From your time coaching and the time in the media, I think you understand the obsession with the quarterback position.
100%, I do.
Do you stress about doing this, finding the quarterback, because it's a little new to you?
I don't. I look. It's new to me relative to a first-round pick and all of that, and yet, we went through a similar thing when Drew retired, and it was Jameis and Taysom, and we had a lot of competition, and so I don't think I stress over it, but I focus on it and pay attention closely to it. Look, the most important thing we do here in the next month is, and I say this respectfully to everyone, is find the right 53 and not let, a good player out of the building. Try not to. We've one of our interns out here, Todd Davis, that you guys got to see play here for a long time. We had him kind of hidden in a room, trying to hang on to him. He gets claimed. He's got to come, and I regret that. We don't want guys like that getting out of the building, and then he ends up, playing well and for another team. So we were deep there, maybe, I'm not sure, but so that's the most important thing, finding the right 53.
Sean, I know we're one practice in, but what or who was impressed you most today?
Well, look, I haven't even seen the tape. I thought Javonte looked real sharp. I thought I'll have a chance to watch the quarterbacks. It was good to see Dulcich back out there, and him moving around. And then I'll spend more time on the tape watching the defensive guys. I thought overall I was pleased with the tempo. Guys looked like they've been working. Their weights were good when they came in, and that was good. And then I don't want to forget about Lucas Kroll either.
You mentioned Javonte losing weight. What was the impetus for asking him to?
Well, I just think I was watching his college tape in the draft room one day, and he walked in, and now, again, he was injured last season, right? And so this was a tough off season. I mean, this time of the year, we were watching all the runs, and I'm asking him questions, and I said, this is the back I want, and what'd you weigh here? And, oftentimes runners, receivers, and corners can, not intentionally, but they can add weight in the weight room and yet at those positions, I kind of like their college senior year weight, early in the league. Some of them are going to put on healthy weight, but and I think his goal, even in the spring, he knew he wanted to get to, 21, 20, but you could see it today.
What does that say, I guess, that you had that conversation with him and it becomes, I guess, clearly a priority to get that?
No, it's the presentation that's important. I'm like, because there were two backs on that team And I said, this is the one I want. And I don't know which one is that. Is that you? You know, and I knew it was him. So, no, he's doing good. Thank you. Yep.